Hi, everyone. Welcome to my next episode of Minecraft podcast, Minecraft Peace. I'm Katerina Newbury, your host, and with me today I have Frank Wainwright. And we'll spend the next about half an hour, 40 minutes max, talking about Frank and his adventures. So let me introduce you to Frank first. So Frank is an ultra runner. He's had a variety of successful careers in marketing, events and brands, business and travel writing, including editing several magazines, public speaking and radio show hosting. And he's an entrepreneur. He calls himself an adventure entrepreneur. Amongst many things, he's run a successful horse riding holiday business in France. And today, however, we'll be mostly talking about his love for running, especially ultra running, endurance running, and the events that he's got coming up, because that's very exciting. Welcome, Frank. It's really good to have you.
Thank you, and a great pleasure to have the chance to kind of talk about my thing. It's a lovely opportunity sometimes to be selfish enough to have a chance to kind of talk about yourself for a while. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to piecing it all together in my own head and talking about some of the things that I've been trying to do and some of the things I want to achieve.
Amazing. Okay. So Frank and I met not long ago, a few months back, when I got into a little bit of more serious running. And I was intrigued because I learned there are people who run extremely long runs, extreme to the point of what you think what is humanly possible. And when I met Frank, he was training for an event which is one of a kind in the world called the Tunnel. And I think that's where I'd like to start, to get you, the viewers, the idea of who Frank is and why he does what he does. So I think you'll find it fascinating. So perhaps you could tell us, Frank, about the event, which is the Tunnel, which was held back in March, was it? And your experience and why you did it.
No, sure. But also, before I do, I'd just like to say that that when we met, you were getting ready for a half marathon, and people training for short distances than the ones that I take on are really pushing themselves towards a big challenge. So I don't want to be the person that sort of starts off saying, here am I, I'm this person that just takes on big challenges. Actually, what I think about in terms of ultra marathoning is it's a challenge where you can sort of channel yourself to push yourself into doing something, but doing something and challenging yourself is really the core of it. So yes, I started running a few years ago. Found myself able to do so. I've got a lot of time in my life for training because I've got the luxury of writing about my life for part of my living. I've got the opportunity to direct my life where I want to go. I've got a philosophy in life which is about living to experience. And if you channel your energies towards living through experiences, you're always looking for the next one to do. In the world of ultra running, in the world of running, that became a little bit obsessive. I started out doing kind of couch to half marathon in a matter of a few weeks, and found myself very rapidly. I was aged 48 at the time, and I found myself rapidly extending my horizons, extending my boundaries. I really wanted to get into the mountains and to get into proper adventures for running, and that's where my heart is. So I'm going to start talking about running in a miserable event in the dark, in what's actually a bleep hole of a place to be expending any sort of energy, and I want you to know that's not the sort of thing which I look forward to doing or love doing, but it came my way because I became more challenged and more extreme in the world of ultra running. So the challenge itself is
Can I just pause you there?
yes.
So if there's anyone watching who doesn't actually know what an ultra marathon is.
Yes, good point.
So what's marathon? We kind of have an idea.
Yeah, people have a very good idea these days of marathon running, and it's an absolute epic distance to try and run. You're pushing your heart to the absolute max if you're running a marathon, if you're trying to do it to the best time available to you. So marathon running is a wonderful opportunity to make an endurance achievement. But if you do look beyond, you might want to go a little further, a little slower, or a little further and push yourself further, or whatever. And anything further than 26.2 miles counts as an ultra marathon. I would say realistically you probably want to be doing 50k to actually feel a notable difference. So that's about 30 to 31 miles, 50 kilometers, to feel a notable difference in the amount of energy and exertion and time on your feet that it'll take to over and above a marathon. So yes, ultra running can be from there. It can go through classic distances, ultra running of 50 miles and 100 miles. And I have, and then you can go on to multi-day events as well. And you can extend as far as you want, really. People will push their boundaries further and further and further, given that opportunity. It becomes addictive and people get into it for extreme distances.
Which brings us nicely back to the tunnel, talking of extremes and pushing boundaries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the tunnel is a known challenge amongst the extreme end of ultra running. It's probably the hardest one in the UK to complete, in that you have to be invited to take part in it. You put yourself forward to take part in it, but then there is a start list of 40 people that are then selected to take part in it. And those people are chosen from a group of people who already have big running CVs with lots of 100-mile events in their background and further. It is an event that takes place entirely in Combe Down Tunnel underneath Bath. It's an old railway tunnel, which is on the Sustrans cycle route these days. And the tunnel itself is a mile long. It's almost exactly a mile. It's slightly over a mile long, but it's almost exactly a mile long. And the challenge starts with, at one end of the tunnel, you have to do 100 there and backs in the tunnel, which is a total of 200 miles. And there is a cut-off time for that of 55 hours in which you have to complete it. So the top clock is always ticking. There isn't really time to sleep. You have one food box at the end of the tunnel, which is your own place to serve yourself with your own things that you brought along with yourself. There is one toilet at the end of the tunnel, which becomes less and less savoury through the course of the event. And there are a whole lot of negatives in the rules. So no support, no sticks, no headphones. It's sensorially deprived, so that you are left to yourself in this dark, hypnotic environment for, as I say, a maximum of 55 hours. It was this year followed along by the One Show and also by the French YouTube channel, Le Parisien. So quite a lot of attention on it, an international field, and 40 of us set out for an event where I did, I'll do a very quick spoiler here to move the story forwards, but I did complete the tunnel. This time, it was my second attempt at doing this, so there's a reference there. This time I did complete the tunnel, and I did so in 54 hours and 19 minutes. And in so doing, became the 22nd person in the history of the event to complete this piece of very foolish and mind-expanding ultra running. So there is a big why to doing an event like this. I don't think, I'm not one of those people that really wants to beat my chest with bravado saying, oh, look at me, I did this thing. But for me, I haven't had a challenge before which would take me into a new mental space. The lights in the tunnel, and then when they go out at night, the tunnel lights go out at night, so you're onto a head torch between 11 in the evening and 5 in the morning. Is that right? Yes, I think that's right, about that. But actually when the lights are on, it's also quite a difficult place to be, because if you can imagine the lights going off into a distant point, very far ahead, then the swaying of the body as you're running through the tunnel produces a very hypnotic effect, and it is absolutely inclines everybody towards hypnosis. And in this event, if you reach a certain point, you will, through sleep deprivation, through the chemical misbalance, you will hallucinate.
There's also the echo of the sound, the constant,
the whole environment is otherworldly, because it's dark, because the sound isn't right. Then on previous years, there can be art installation, music, screeching violins playing in the tunnel for the entertainment of the runners through the middle part of each day. That wasn't on this year, unfortunately, because the part of the route just behind the tunnel had been closed for pedestrian traffic, and so they kind of just shut that off whilst they're making those repairs. So we didn't have that. I don't know if it makes it better or worse. I did have a go at doing the tunnel the previous year. I don't think that the screechy music made my attempt any more successful or less likely to succeed. But it is an otherworldly environment, and you do start to see things quite quickly, in terms of the brain shortcutting the process. You start to see illusions. When you see in the dark and you're tired and you've been driving, maybe, and you see a leaf and you think, was that a frog or is it a leaf? And there's that, your brain starts to shortcut the process. And then you might see the bark of a tree and wonder whether that was a face. Did I see a face? That's illusion. And then that's a process that you'll pass through when the brain gets tired. And then going in further to hallucination, that's when the brain just says, we've got to take things over here and fill in the gaps, because not everything is real anymore.
So they're ultra runners who appreciate, like yourself, running in the outdoors, enjoying the countryside, enjoying the scenery, just the experience of the natural world. And then you place yourself in this event. Coming back to your why, what is it that you what is your why, and what did you get out of it? What did it what did you go
so from a personal perspective, there is that part of the experience. I wanted to find out what it was like to get into that sort of hallucinogenic state, and I wanted to, and I had to remind myself of that when I was really struggling in the event, that actually this is what you signed up for, this is what you wanted. But there is also reputational benefits which comes my way. Partly it gives me interesting stuff to write about, but also there's a reputational element that comes along with this, through just elevating the number of people that know me slightly in the ultra running community. And that's helpful because I've got other projects ahead of me, and also because I like to have this connection. I like to have a community of people who like to travel around the country and be able to know each other more automatically, and becoming part of that club certainly helped me in terms of that bit of recognition. But also exterior to that, because as you were saying earlier about me being an entrepreneur, I sort of am an entrepreneur. I have run my own business for 20 years or so. It's not one that employs masses of people, but when it does pop up, then quite a few people rely upon the events that I host to be a big factor in their year, or something that they work on each year. And I run a thing called Field Marketing and Brand Experience Awards, and that is within the brand events industry. So if you are picking up a sample in Tesco or Waitrose or something, then that would count as a brand experience. If you are going through the Hall of Mirrors hosted by Coca-Cola at the Olympic Games, then that is also a brand experience. And between those two extreme positions, there are all sorts of little pop-up events and the like. These get entered into my awards, and has through that period of time linked me with a large number of brands and a large number of brand related agencies. And I wanted them to be able to believe I could run long distances. I wanted to think about a future where I could be involved with charity and supporting other people. And I thought, here is an opportunity with this massive connections that I have.
Yeah.
So at some point in the future, this is coming up now, but at some point in the future, to be able to connect with them and to lean on them to support me. And for them, I needed them to believe that I was capable of extraordinary things in terms of my athletic endeavor. I don't, if you see me standing up, look like a typical athlete. I certainly don't look like a lightweight runner. I'm a chunky piece of person, and I'm tall and broad. I don't line up at the start of an ultramarathon running race and look like the other ultra runners typically. I'm a little bit bigger and a little bit more solid, and people don't often believe that I'm capable of doing the things that I'm setting out to do just because I don't look the parts, but I generally am.
You definitely are. You've kind of answered my next question, which was around the fact that you're moving into like maybe a different phase in your life, in your business, which is to utilize the amazing experience, the connections, the community kind of you've created to create something of your own, which would benefit especially the young generation. Young people. You talk about being very optimistic about the young generation, and I know we're going to talk about your plans in a minute, but before we get there, what makes you feel so optimistic about the young people?
I think here's a couple of things. I am an optimist, absolutely, and it's not just for young people, but across the generations. But certainly, I'm now 54. I reached a point in my 50s where there was a notable, in my 40s, where there was a sort of notable divide between the people that I kind of knew and grew up with. Some were a little bit negative about young people, saying that they were not as, they didn't play outside, and they don't they hang around in bus stops, and they're always chewing gum, and what are these young people doing these days? They're loitering, and they're spending all their time on their phones, and they're no. And then there were a side of us that were feeling much more vibrant and positive about young people, saying, well, look at these youngsters. They have the keys to the future. They've got a passion for global communications, for connecting with each other, for sustainability, for looking after the planet, for advising each other, for crossing boundaries, for not bowing to old tropes and racism and stuff, where you just think, actually, the next generation is always going to be that little bit better than the previous one. And then I started thinking, in which case, if I've got a passion for fundraising, then I want to look into youth development, helping children from difficult backgrounds, kids with difficult backgrounds, because I can't solve everything myself. I can't just pour my efforts into one particular cause. But if I pour my attention into youth development programs, then I have the opportunity to slightly extend my family. And when I started looking at Brathay Trust, who I believe in very, very firmly, I've been to see their work very closely. I've become very closely associated with Brathay. And when I look at their work, they help develop and work with kids out of places like Barrow, Inverness, and Bradford, from quite challenging urban backgrounds, very challenging urban backgrounds, and the kind of those that embrace the program absolutely bite Brathay's arm off for the help that they're able to give them, and become such glowing, wonderful citizens. And that for me is encouraging, because these are the people that are going to fix as best they can some of the environmental issues that we're up against in the future. These are the people that are going to create jobs and make opportunities through their entrepreneurship. These are the people that are going to become excellent sports scientists or work together to find cures for horrible diseases. And so if you can harness that, and if you can extend that and build a network of that, then I think that is not just producing charity funds to fix a problem or put a plaster on it in the immediate future, but to produce a web of support that grows up.
I totally agree. I'm very passionate about supporting the young generation, as they are the ones who will be here on the planet when we're gone. And for me, it's what you've described is what I believe in as well, is creating an environment and opportunities for these kids. But they come from us, from the generation of their parents, and those senior to them. And it sounds like, yeah, you'll be giving huge opportunities to the kids who, like you said, would grab at the opportunity. It's just that their current circumstances don't allow it. Yeah.
Oh, well, we met, as you did just say, just a few weeks ago, and it was an inspiring meet for me, in that suddenly I found another person who not only understands where I'm coming from the youth and the future perspective, but invests your time and passion and energy into helping teenagers to become more thoughtful, more mindful, and
I come in from the kind of emotional and mental health perspective. You come in with giving them, I guess, the opportunity to build character and then take it into, yeah, maybe becoming the next brand experts, people who,
I see people talk about running as being a salve for mental health. And I see where they come from on that. And certainly running and walking in particular, walking helps you to engage with somebody and talk in a way that allows everything to flow properly into a conversation that allows people, I think, to remove little bits of their stress. But equally, running can become just another obsession. It sounds like I'm that case. I'm not really. I'm quite detached from my running. I'm not. Running isn't the be all and end all for me. It's just a phase that I'm going through that helps me get to where I am now. But you can become extremely obsessed with what's my personal best, what's my time, and actually the best opportunities I've had out running have been at the easy pace that you do training for ultra running, because that means I can go out for a short run with somebody's grandson who's having a struggle at the moment. I used to run with Ryan in Chippenham here with he's a blind runner, and I used to guide him. With people that are new to the area, or so solving those little mental hills. Certainly running is a helpful thing, and equally it can be your downfall. So I like to say do the thing that suits you, that you enjoy, and have conversations along the way.
No, I love that you touched upon something else I wanted to ask about, which is your kind of ability to create a community around you, and then bring, through running, be able to support others. You've been incredibly supportive to me. I know lots of other people, even in very difficult kind of life situations. And this is where I think, the running can be very supportive, because it can lift people up if they do things together. Everyone knows it's easier to go for a run if you're meeting a friend, then do it all by yourself. Do it on your own. Yeah.
Well, it's nice of you to say that. I've been very supportive of you. All I really think I am is an open and accessible person that tries not to put up barriers with whoever I meet and wherever I go, and I like being that person. I like being able to connect and communicate with people. I'm very much a people person. So that's probably why these little community things pop up. I was I had the opportunity through the Most Neurone Disease Association to run the Leeds Marathon last year, and I thought a marathon isn't something where I can raise lots of money fundraising for the Most Neurone Disease Association just on the basis of it not being another challenge for me. I have to say that I'm probably doing 30 of these events every year, so it doesn't come across as my big next thing. So I decided to do it in costume and I bought myself the cheapest available costume on Amazon, which just happened to be lightweight and easy to run, and was a pineapple. And I became, for a brief period of weeks last summer, running pineapple. But of all the costume characters at Leeds, I was one of the ones that was able to really connect with people, partly because I had nothing hiding my face, and partly because I'm obviously an open and approachable person. So the BBC approached me and said, "Can I come on there, be the clip for them for the breakfast show?" And because I was able to be engaging and open about that, then I became the running pineapple. That then, when a beautiful sunny day in Leeds, people had come out from the care homes and with their wheelchairs and with the kids that needed help, and the carers were, "Oh, pineapple, agadoo, come and do agadoo for us." And the kids were, "Pineapple, pineapple, come and do it." And it turned the whole thing into a running and dancing adventure with music playing, and it just meant that the whole day flew past in a kind of flurry of colour and joy.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, would have wanted to see that.
It's something which added to the learning experience of things for me, which means that I'm now confident of being able to connect on more on a sort of slightly more ambitious stage as well.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, talking of challenges, you've set yourself up a challenge. Would you like to this summer?
Yes, it is this summer, and it has been several years in the planning, and it'll become clear as to why that might be when we dig into it a bit. But this summer, from the 1st of July to the 31st of August, I am running Frank's Big Toe, or the Big Toe, depending on our way of looking at it. But Frank's Big Toe is my tour of England, TOE. And the reason for that came up during lockdown. That's when I started planning it. So I had the time to plan a thing during lockdown. And that's why it's England rather than England and Wales and Scotland, because we couldn't cross the borders at the time, and I had to choose something. Tours of Wales and Scotland will no doubt follow sometime in the future. We won't. It's not to be exclusive. But at the time, English cycling or British cycling came up with a route that linked together the 42 cathedrals of England, the cathedral cities. And I thought to myself, that looks quite an accessible urban to country plan. All the people that I want to help from a youth development perspective are largely urban. All the places where they find themselves and work themselves out a bit are largely country. So this route that they came up with, I thought that suits my agenda a little bit if I can make this work. And to make it work, I completely restructured the route. But it is a 1,850-mile route. I'm going to run around it very slowly in 62 days, but on a run-walking sort of pace, which is 30 miles a day, every day from the 1st of July to the end of August. With Brathay Trust, that I've also already mentioned, as the main charity point of advantage this time around, raising money for them, but also with a bigger picture of creating my own legacy as a fundraiser, and also as a connector of young people and their ambitions to the industry where I have the greatest influence, which is the field marketing, brand experience, brand events thing that I was talking about. So hopefully my tour of England will be both a running project, a writing project with a magazine to follow and a book to follow it, a daily blog and endurance blog writing activity, and somewhere which goes into so much of England. We start, it's a clockwise route. So if you can imagine starting up in Newcastle, up in the far northeast, coming down the cities of the east side of England, then through London and down to Canterbury, then it goes across the bottom of the country to Guildford and Salisbury and Exeter and Truro, and then up the west side of the country via Wells and Bristol, and eventually all the way up to Carlisle, and finally back across Hadrian's Wall and to Newcastle. It does so taking in on each day the highlights that it crosses through. So if there's a National Trust property on the way, if there is a celebrity's house en route, if there's a Doctor Who museum, if there is the best pie and pasty shop in Cornwall, then it's had that level of research put into it. It's in the Eden Project through the front door, it's out through the back, it's into the British Motoring Museum in Coventry, and out through the back, and it's through the shopping centres as well, which a lot of them are supporting and sponsoring my trip. So it goes through the Trafford Centre in Manchester and the Blue Water Shopping Centre in Kent, and it does come through Chippenham as well. So that is the 12th of August, Monday the 12th of August. The route goes from Bath through the middle of the day, lunchtime, on the lunch break in Chippenham. It comes through up the high street and then finishes for the day at Avebury. But to give you an example of how how I've packed that in, obviously we will have spent the evening before learning more about Bath and Jane Austen and the Commedia and the Georgian history. We'll have been to the Abbey and what have you. Then it comes on a route which takes in local highlights. It comes right through Corsham and through Corsham Court, into Chippenham, up the high street, through off through Calne with a view of the White Horse over at Cheryl, and then down to Avebury. And then once I've finished running for the day, that's when the further tours take place. So and then I'm getting in the car, I'm going to Laycock and Laycock Abbey, I'm going to bring in hopefully get out to Castle Combe. We'll get down to Stonehenge, I think, as well on part of this trip. So before I then start again the next day from Avebury and head up the Ridgeway towards Wantage. So every day is packed like that, and that is the Chippenham Day, which is, as I say, the 12th of August.
Amazing. And you're raising, this is an event to raise funds for well, two charities really, Brathay Trust and then also your own.
So it's not raising funds for my own charity, it's raising funds for Brathay Trust. But through the process, I'm launching my own charity, which is called Events, which is youth for the events industry, or youth for events and adventures, or however you want to frame it. But YVENT. And what happened there was I was casting back to the previous part of the conversation. I've now been running my Field Marketing and Brand Experience Awards within the events industry for 20 years. And when I started those awards, there were a group of industry seniors that are probably about 10 years or so older than me at the time, who have now grown up through the awards and might, in spite of their incredible talent and excellent hard work that they've put in entrepreneurship and all those things that they put into their daily lives, might have found a little bit of breathing space where children have finished university and moved on. And so that generation, I'm now communicating with to put together a kind of mentoring group that will give not just Brathay Trust, but youth charities located nationally, local charities that there is no big national charity for youth development in terms of deprived youth. There's Outward Bound that does a wonderful job for helping youth in all different areas to explore the great outdoors, and multiple others, but the ones that really for me, intimately know the city that they're working in, like Brathay and Bradford, is the beating heart of helping people in Bradford. The council rely on Brathay really strongly to work out schemes for them. That kind of level of intensity you don't really find apart from at a local level. And so what I wanted to do was be able to say, right, in future projects, I'm going to raise money for across these various charities and help them equally, but also with an outcome, so that they then know I've got a group of event related mentors and work experience opportunities, so that if any of the young people have an interest who wouldn't in getting some work experience at a festival or getting some work experience with a brand experience agency in terms of marketing or sales. So we've connected very strongly with field marketing groups that help people to sell products into stores from cars and things. So there are a number of different outlets where event will provide the mentoring, the work experience, and some educational structure, and led by people with experience and passion.
And that you've described that as your charity to be as maybe your legacy, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole, I don't really know, looking back, whether I've squared the circle after the fact, or whether I was always heading this way. I have fundraising history in the family, so something in me thinks that there might be some twinkle of that coming through to my generation. I have a great grandfather who was the person that funded St Thomas's Hospital in order to deliver the new styles of nursing. That he works alongside Florence Nightingale to create modern hospitalization. And maybe there's something of that lurking in my background, but whichever way it was, all the things that I'd sort of done, building my business, doing my having my overseas adventures, becoming a runner, doing these things, they were all quite interesting and a little bit selfish, and somehow I've sort of thought this is a way of turning those things through into something which obviously isn't, and gives it all a bit more purpose and meaning, and so hopefully I was heading that way automatically anyway. Either that or I had a sort of life turnaround, but I think it's more the first thing that says, actually,
the next
I was building this up, these communities, and I've finally worked out what to do with them all, and to marry them together in this exotic web of running and event hosting. And I think that will produce a legacy for me. The young people that we're going to see come through the process are what I want to leave behind as my extended family. Obviously my family man, everything there sorted first, but then when we have the opportunity to extend that family base and see other young people benefit from that, and then to benefit back from them, that's always the big thing. People often say the giving thing must be very exhausting, and actually the mutual rewards is the best part out of it. It's very fulfilling.
I think it's only giving if you do it for the wrong reasons, or from a place where you don't feel like fulfilled yourself. I don't know, I get a sense within the British society it can be a little bit like that. That can be a little controversial, to focus on kindness, always kind, but actually, you need to fill your own cup first to be then able to share it, give to others, and you come from that place, and it's obvious. I help people fill their cup first, and young people. So yeah, coming back to mental health, I really like one of your quotes from and that may be something we wrap up with, if you're okay. really beautiful article on your blog about one particular event where you called, or you wanted to look at whether running such events, which, you know, to a regular person may seem like, you know, absolutely extreme or almost of the, pushing limits of what is humanly possible, whether it's like mental, just, you know, crazy, and mental health, and then there, I'll maybe quote, if that's all right. Or do you want to?
No, please,
Yeah.
please, no, tell me what's on set.
Of course, you can't remember everything.
No, I
so-
know, absolutely no. And
So-
let's hope it was fairly truthful before you go for it.
Let's see how you feel about
Go
it
for
now.
it.
Yeah.
It's too late. Go for it.
So to be mentally strong or just plain mental is probably down to perception. Certainly in a world where so much is laid on for our comfort and convenience, the part of us that is wired for flight is underused. In that sense, when ultra running takes me away from lamplit Chippenham and its itinerant amenities, I feel more complete. I really like that, because is that fine for me, that represents the fine balance between kind of looking after your own needs, that you feel good and comfortable in yourself, and then moving into a space where you can grow, expand, and, you know, push boundaries a little bit. But yeah, yeah, how do you feel about that quote now?
Yeah, I sort of like it, and there's a little bit about me that says, in addition to that, there is in all these things there is inclusivity, and very recently there was a fine ultra runner who went the length of Africa, and it was a brilliant effort, a brilliant thing, a great act of extreme courage, etc., etc. And I'm full of admiration for it, but and the but element of that is that my world, I don't want to be that person that does something which nobody else can join in with, or just looks up to for the sake of it. And what I like, where I came up with the plan for the big tour of England, and where I paced my other things, is actually this is a massive ultra run, but it's also something which is completely inclusive and accessible. The route comes out on roads, often out of the cities that we're going to, and does so on cycle tracks, so you can get out on. You can join me for a mile on the bike or on the wheelchair, and then get picked up or head back into town, and taking these things down to bite size. Everybody is running their own ultra. Everybody's aiming to get through their next few hours the next day. We always talk about in ultra running about just one more loop, or stay on your feet, or get to the next aid station. And I see that as a decent metaphor for life. How do we get to the next aid station? How do we get to the next place? And in that sense, people that are coming to join me, anybody's welcome to do so on the big tour of England. It's all on my website at frankpublishing.com. There's a link tree there. Anybody that wants to find a day to come out and join it will find a way of including them.
Just like you've created a marathon, all-inclusive marathon for your our local running club members. Yeah.
Yeah, the local running club people hoof around my event, which is called the Beaucock Marathon, because of it linking together the highlights of Bowden House and Laycock Abbey, and the thinking behind that is it's a marathon route, but you can do it any way you want to. It links up 3 pubs if you want to go out on a social with it. It is a beautiful dog walking route. You can do it over a long summer day. You can break it down into chunks. You can do it. One man recently did it with sleeping in a hedge overnight. So anybody can take their own take on it, and everybody receives a prize at the end of the season that shows what they contributed to the story. So whether that was a great photograph, or whether it was a unique, funny moment of their experience, or whether they simply had the best picnic, or actually ran the fastest time, goodness me. But but all of those takes on it are perfectly possible. And equally, my big tour of England will celebrate days slowly.
Wonderful. So how can people get involved with your big tour of England?
Absolutely easily by going to frankpublishing.com. There's a link tree there, following me on Big Toe Runner on Instagram, or Frank Wainwright on Strava, leaving me a message saying that you're interested. There are all sorts of ways of connecting through those various places, or we're on a tracker. So the whole thing has a tracker which says where I am at any moment in time. On the website also, each day is broken down to a few hours apart. And one of the great reasons for the cathedral story, apart from the fact that they are houses of history, is that people always know where the cathedral is in the centre of the city. I'm going to 10 different park runs on tour. So if park running is your thing, come and join me at a park run. And then see if you want to do another mile out of town and run back to the park run again. If you have a fascination with, wish you'd always seen Worcester Cathedral, it's a lovely place to come and visit for a weekend or a day away. Then come and meet me there, and we will trot out of Worcester Cathedral together. And hopefully there's a route back for you, back to the car or back to the bus or the train station or whatever on the route somewhere. But it's done like that so that people can come and join in easily and find out where it is.
Amazing. Maybe as a final point, is there anything you would want to share with those who find themselves are the ones that are pushing just for results, for personal bests, get themselves into that cycle of, I'm doing, I got caught up in this pushing for the sake of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting pleasure out of it, brilliant. And like any of these things, the high of some people have of taking 5 seconds off their time at their 5th attempt at the marathon is wonderful. If you that kind of, I've been in that place, not often, but I've been in that place sometimes where I'm pushing myself to the absolute limit of my heart's capacity, and crossing that line feels amazing. Equally, if you're doing it because you're anxious because what will people on Strava think about my time? What will happen if I'm not quite as quick as last year, or it's perfectly forgivable to put on a bit of weight and to not feel quite so, to go through a patch where you're not feeling quite so must do or must push yourself. It's perfectly acceptable to have changes in lifestyle and what have you. And some people still can't find it very difficult to let go of their goals and the things that they were aiming for because of an arbitrary clock or an arbitrary piece of timing, or and for them I say, if you want to carry on running and get back into it, and hit the trails and find some time and space for yourself. Nobody can tell you how high the mountain was, only you really know.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your
time,
Frank.
Thank you.
And join in the big tour of England, and support the Brathay Trust. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, and until next time.
Thank you.
Bye for now.